into yet to date. And basically, we're looking at identifying within Stephen what our skill sets are, what our workforce capacities are, what our community capacities are, what is our experience in delivering training and employment development. And also we're looking at connectivity issues and challenges and those types of things. And so we've entered into a partnership with the Lower Staff Travel Council. We're looking at delivering this report, and then it's the first phase. The next phase is we're actually looking then to develop a Stephen labor force development strategy. And with that, we're looking at least a 5-year initiative if things go according to plans. And so we're really looking at how we make sure we understand what the needs are. You know, when all the planning work that we do and activities we plan and develop and prioritize, it's all needs driven. When we say needs driven, it means that we investigate, we find out, we confirm what the issues and challenges and the gaps are with communities. And when we can, with all membership. And so there's opportunities in this project to get some of that feedback from our operative membership. But one of our goals is to establish a database of all working age Stephen people. And we're going to, it's what we call a learning management system is the way to deal with that. And we want to make sure that we help develop capacity and skills and actually achieve careers and not just working jobs. It's tied into the educational programs that we have because it'll drive the partnerships that we need to enter into, the skills that we're looking to develop, and all those types of things. One of our key priorities is about local delivery, having access to services. And for some of those things we can't deliver within communities. But we didn't know what we have, what we don't have, and what we need to develop. And it's not just on member side, it's also on the community side, on the infrastructure side, delivery of programs, those types of things, and it all comes from good governance. So all these things are part of that work. Michael Eisen, he's one of the consultants that we've hired, that we've engaged to help us do the research work and start doing this, putting together the report. And Michael's got a very interesting background. I'll let him introduce himself and talk a little bit about what the project is. And he also has a survey I'd like to introduce and ask people to fill out if we could today before they leave, and it'll help us move along with the project.
Thanks, Ernest, and thank you for the lunch. It was tasty meal. My name is Michael Eisen. I'm a consultant. I call myself a labor market analyst. What that means is I look at the job market and try to put together a bit of a report, particularly for what we're doing with Ernest and Laura is this skills gap analysis. As Ernest said, we're looking at what are the skills of the Stephen people, what are the resources to help increase those skills, and we're talking to all the local employers. What are your jobs? What are your jobs in the future? What's your workforce? Many workforces these days, they may have enough people, but everybody is over 55 years old, which means in about 10 minutes they won't have enough. We have a question already.
Childcare been brought up at all?
Childcare is both in terms of a job. Childcare workers are needed throughout the province and needed throughout the region. Childcare also is needed to help people access training and access jobs. So childcare is needed. We have to identify both the skills side of things and the job side of things. So absolutely, we're trying to look at all those aspects. We're looking at the hydro projects, although those for the construction part, those are temporary. That is 2-3 years of operations. We're also trying to tie in the bigger labor market so that if anybody that gets trained in a job in the hydro, that there's also related jobs in the region for people to go after, so they don't have to go to Alberta with those skills, right? They can stay in the communities. We're trying to look at all that information and figure out what those gaps are. As Ernest said, then those gaps will be further identified at the next study to look at how to train people up in those. If that sort of makes sense, that's what we're trying to do right now. As Ernest mentioned, also we did look at these Statistics Canada. That's one of the first things. How many people in the region? How many people are working? What are the ages? One of the things we found out is that the age clusters of the people in the Stephen territory are very young, which we sort of guessed at anyways, but also in the 40 to 55 range. There's a big chunk of those folks as well. So there's different services that you may offer for different age groups. as well as looking at the men and women. Again, different types of jobs, different types of services. Okay.
That would be the same for all prisoners.
Well, first of all, we looked at the Stats Canada numbers in the region. Because all those numbers, people may identify Aboriginal identity or other ethnic, but there's no breakdown of Statelian versus Osage, for example. There is some stuff around language group, but Statelian language group would be the same as other regional language groups, so you don't break down that way. But when they were taking those numbers, we also go into each of the communities, getting them to comment on it and give us their numbers, to try and look at those pieces as well. Then we work with Ernest and the other organizations to try and estimate what the off-reserve or people not in the traditional territory, what those numbers are. None of the numbers are perfect, but we put them all together and say this is our best estimate. Because the nature of people too, as soon as you say there's this many people, well, some people die, some people move, and some people have more people. So those numbers are always changing, but we're going to do our best to put together a picture.
Understanding of officers. As for if there's any hope for officers to do the kinds of jobs back home.
Well, that's one of the things I'm going to get out to you guys right away. I want to get your feedback. I want to know what your skills are. I want to know what job you're interested in, and I want to know if you're interested in taking a job back home and what that job would be. That will go into our report to try and identify that as well, because we know there's lots of skills in the large Statelian people that may not be living in the traditional territory, that employers in that territory want those skills. And so ideally, this report will help people like Ernest, people like Laura down the road do that matching. And as Ernest said too, there's a part in the survey we're asking you at the end if you would provide us your name and contact information. It's totally voluntary, but if you do, then we can use that information for the database. We need to know what you want, and we need to know how to get a hold of you, if that sort of makes some sense. So if I can get people to take this, pass them around, and if you can just fill them out and before the end of the session here, take one, pass them around.
I've got a couple of pens if people need pens. Anybody else need a pen?
Within all that, as Eric mentioned too, we understand that just because there's a job might be available doesn't mean everybody wants to take that training program. There's issues around how to access training, how to pay for it, how to leave your current job to take that training. And with any job process, there's a competition. So you can still get the training, but you may not get the job, or you may get the job and you may not like the job. That's part of it as well. Be careful what you ask for sometimes, as they say. Because sometimes the job feels a lot like hard work.
Do they have to help people find the kind of job they want?
And that's part of the research. Well, that's part of the research we're doing. We're doing it on two sides. We're talking to a lot of the Statelian people. What sort of jobs are you interested in? We're also talking to the employers. What jobs do you have to offer? Now, you may be interested in, for example, being an astronaut. But until we have, a space facility in the Statelian territory, that may not be a good match for the region.
I thought you were an astronaut.
Well, in my spare time, I can be really spaced out. But this is not quite a personal assessment because it's not that level of detail. What we're looking for right now is just the broader details, because then that will help the employment counselors eventually focus the personal assessment with the jobs. Because, quite frankly, so we're writing a report, and reports are great, and they help people like Bruce and Laura. The report doesn't get anybody a job. You know, that's not the same thing, but it's part of the process. Because what we're trying to do, like I said, two things. How many people in the community, what are their skills, and what do they want to do? At the same time, what are the jobs in the community? And those sets of things change every day. They change every day. So it's not a fun, detailed thing, but it's the first time a list of all the potential employers and all the ways to go look for help. So we're talking to the work PC centers. We're talking to the chambers of commerce. We're talking to small businesses. We're talking to big businesses. We're talking to some great people. We're talking to some people who shut the doors on our faces. But we are getting some really good pieces of information. One of the unusual things in your territory, of course, is the community of Whistler, which distorts a labor market like crazy because it is so unusual, but there are many job opportunities there. One of the interesting things we heard, and this is sort of an example, is they're looking for level 2 cooks. If you take cooking and you do the apprenticeship model, there's 3 levels, level 1, 2, 3. A camp cook may only require level 1. Whistler, their kitchens are screening for level 2 cooks. They hire them from around the world. So we're saying, stop hiring from around the world. Can we find level 2 cooks amongst the Stratton people? Or can we find people who are interested in cooking and help build the experiences to level 2? Can we leverage the opportunities through the camps around BC Hydro and the other projects to build that work experience and that training? Because a level 2 cook isn't created overnight. It does take a couple of years. It takes a couple of years, and not everybody even takes level 2 who want to go work in Whistler. We understand that as well. But again, looking at what are the opportunities in the Whistler region. What are the opportunities around the camps and the hydro projects? What are the opportunities around the Lillooet region, around Pemberton? And of course, within the First Nations themselves. What about the band administration? What about the social services? What about the economic development projects that each of the nations are doing? So we're trying to take all that information and put it together, looking at all the different opportunities, and this again will help the next step, which is a strategy to train people up in those things. You know, trying to focus it for young folks as well. How do you get that information into the school system? How do we provide services for mid-career people? Not necessarily the same thing you provide for younger folks, but still, we know there's a big chunk of those people. How do we provide those services for people not currently living in those communities but would like to move back? This is just the information piece. It's one step along the way. Any other questions, thoughts?
So the money when the only just be coming from the hires and possibly hydro?
Pardon me, was that?
Or through hydro?
Hydro is a big part of it. They're on our steering committee. Just this last week, they presented us with their estimates of the number of jobs for their projects. Sat down with them this week. We went through a lot of the details. I pushed them on the various career paths. Even when they say these are the skills they want, they also point out it's a competitive process. Just because you have those skills doesn't mean you get it. You have to interview, you have to send a resume, and they look at everybody else who applied. So we talked about different ways we can help build the skills. We can help build even the points you score in an interview for the staffing people. Can we supplement it through tours? Can we supplement it through different projects, different ways BC Hydro can help the staffing of applicants? So again, that's just part of the process. We get information, we get numbers, we get projections, then we go back and we talk to employers, what do you really want? You shut the door, just between you and me, what do you really want? How do you interview people? What do you look for? How do you define good work attitude? What does that look like in an interview, you know? Things like that. When you say you want work experience, how much work experience? You know, sometimes the job application just say related experience. 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. What do you want? So that's some of the things that we're trying to do. Because some of the skills that people may need might be a certificate, but some of it might be work experience. Some of it might be related work experience. So we're trying to define all that. With all that keeping in mind, employers can change their mind, and they do on a regular basis. And people can change their direction. I want to become an electrician. They studied for 2 years, decide they hate it. That happens to people all the time. You still know your career direction better than anybody else in this room. You know what you want, you know what you like, you know what you're good at, you know what you hate. You know if you like to work outdoors, you know if you like to work indoors. You know if you like to work with people, you know if you just want everybody else to go away. I'm a consultant, I work for myself, which means I do enjoy my time working with other people, but quite frankly, a lot of times I like to do nothing more.
All right, see ya.
So long as he never let me talk anyway.
That's good. So thanks, Mike. And so this is important work, you know, and in my view, we look at sustainability, we want to make informed decisions. This is part of our process and engagement and getting information so that we can make those decisions before. Yes?
I want to say something before you leave. Forestry and hydro have a lot of silviculture and rather than other territories. I noticed that there's little or no more jobs in silviculture.
And that's what we're looking at, especially related jobs like that. How do you take some of those skills? But we're talking with forestry companies, we're talking with the nation's economic development companies that often do that type of thing. Silviculture may be down right now, but forestry in many regions of BC is growing. It's on the uptake again, but it's changed, and there's different skill requirements to work in forestry than there was 10 years ago. There's now certificates required, things like that. So that's all part of the research we're doing. And exactly, and it's all, we're sort of looking at all the natural resources, the hydro, the forestry, and mining, as well as construction, road maintenance, things like that. We're looking at administration jobs, everything from bookkeeping to files to, receptionists to running band and companies. We're looking at social services, the teaching assistants, the healthcare aides, things like that.
Now, you said that what about cultural teachings?
All that goes into it. Like I said, this study is a higher level view, so we're looking at just education services in general. The actual types of jobs will then go really what the employment counselors, things like that. Those people will be looking at it in more detail. But you're right, cultural component is a big part of it. That is, in terms of the way the labor market is lumped in, not with teaching, with education, it's lumped in with the arts. So arts and culture go together quite often. But also, how does that combine in many communities with tourism and hospitality? Sometimes that's brought in, but like I said, it also crosses over with education.
It's not only just getting back into education, if the people learn more about the culture, they'll have a better understanding themselves and they'll want to grow, right?
Yeah. All important.
Is this all focused on within Southern territory? Are people who want to move back to?
Yeah, the focus is it's in the territory. It's land based. And we go to different communities. Some communities try to help out their members, but it's usually a tough to do outreach. And so that's where we rely on partnerships. So you'll see more of that kind of stuff for us as well. Because we can't. establish these types of services out here, but we could look for partners who deliver, like, the Friendship Center, they deliver a lot of programs, they deliver to whoever. And so you see a lot of that stuff, it's going to be the same thing in health, it's going to be the same thing in employment training, and the thing that we're saying is that if you're in the Stallion territory, it doesn't matter where you are in the territory, you should be able to receive services for any Aboriginal person. And so, because in the past, we've always been stuck on reserve. And now we're it's territory-based approach in everything we do. And so that's what it's about. But if we know, because we say the Stallion, we need to know who they are and where they are and what to do. Because, I look at building capacity, and if people leave reserve, I think they're going to build skills and experience, and maybe they'll come back. Because I used to be a band manager and did that kind of work, and we lost people, yeah, but we are eventually they come back sometimes. I think it's really about, for us, it's the higher level piece, and it's about making that informed decisions on what we do to try to ensure that we're sustainable as a people. The economy is one of our biggest challenges right now, and it's where we've done the least amount of work in planning. And so to have a strong economy, you have a strong workforce. And so this is why we're doing this work now, to start being able to develop that. So it takes time, and it's one of the things the one thing I really appreciate with this whole implementation process is that it gives us the ability to start doing the planning.
So are people going to be encouraged to go to school to get like PhDs and doctorates? I noticed that my other, like the nation where my mom is from, they refuse somebody to go to school to become like a doctor, like a medical doctor.
Really?
So I'm just wondering if that's really happening here.
Well, that's what our scholarship program is about, for example. Because when you looked at the numbers, we had less than 4% of Statlian people in total who've got a university degree or a master's degree. That is not good enough. And we wonder why we have capacity issues in our senior management and senior program areas, because most of our managers, for example, band managers in the territory, they're not Statlian. How are we supposed to ensure that we protect our culture and language and ingrain our culture and language into our program and services if the people that lead them aren't Statlian? We look at the school systems. Our participation in the school system, I think, is on employment level is something like, was it 20%? And they're all entry-level jobs. How are you going to affect change in the system if we're not involved in that system? So these are the things that we've identified in the set framework, and things we're doing now with the Accord in order to lower it. Because we really want to promote those people to take those high-end jobs that will help influence and make change in the programs and services that we have in the territory. And to be involved in change, we have to be in the change. And we have to lead that change. And so we need to develop those people who have those skill sets, and and ground it. They need to know who they are stepping into. And because that's really how we're going to make those changes, because we can't control the systems. The only way we control the systems by I say infiltrate, but it'll be about operating within them and then taking them over. And that has to be part of our strategies too. So it's taken us generations to get here. It's going to take us more than a couple of years to get out of it. And that's just a reality. And, so anyways, that's just a little bit of stuff outside of the box here. Anyways, so thank you, Michael. I don't want to kick you out, but we have to get moving.
Absolutely.
And if you got those, I'll take a big help. Like have those surveys. If not, you can look on this and you'll message me. That's correct. All right. Very good. So I'll call up Lita and her team, and they're going to talk a bit about their projects, and they're going to give you a live presentation. Because the video, I guess, you had a bad hair day or something. No?
Okay, so my name is Lisa Gomez. I'm the resource manager of Statlian Government Services, and I've been working there since April of this year, so still relatively new. Basically, I do work with a really good team, and most of them aren't here today. Nora Billy is one of those team members, and she is here, so she's going to talk a bit about what she works with, mapping, as well as the environment team. So Denise, Antoine, Darwin, John, and Sue Sanger. none of them are here today, but you did see their video, so that hopefully will answer some questions about what the environment team is up to. So I've got about 6 slides I'll go through, and it'll probably take 5 minutes tops. I don't have a lot to say, but yeah, essentially 5 minutes. So one of my main roles is the chair of the Stewardship Advisory Committee, and what that involves is organizing and coordinating meetings once every 1 or 2 months throughout the Scotland territory. We discuss lands and resource type issues, culture heritage. We have updates from the fisheries program as well. And the idea is that we can provide advice to the Scotland Chief Council. Some of the topics that we've discussed over the past few months: road access management, information sharing agreements. Community members also provide updates. So the committee is composed of a representative from each of the 11 communities, or at least there's seats for a representative from each of the 11 communities. And in that way, communication, the main goal is to maintain a communication between SGS, the communities, as well as the Scotland Chiefs Council. As well, we receive updates from the fisheries program. So there is a fisheries advisor, Dr. Dave Levy, who provides advice on fisheries programs. As well, Janice Billy, who wasn't able to make it today, does a lot of the work with the naturalist fish, so salmon management, and she coordinates the fisheries technical committee, which, like the Stewardship Advisory Committee, has a seat for a representative from each of the communities. So one of the main projects that we've been working on out of that committee is the information sharing agreement. And that was started over a year ago by Larry Casper, who's now the chief of Shalab. And the Stewardship Advisory Committee has worked really hard on this information sharing agreement. Essentially what it does is it outlines the general processes by which information can be shared between communities and SGS and back and forth. So it's taken a long time to get that document together, but just last month, the advisory committee came to consensus on it. So that means that the first draft was essentially agreed to by the group. And that means that now it can go up to the communities so that their chief and council can review it and provide comment. And ideally endorse it.
Thank you.
One of the other projects we're working on, because there is a lot of spatial information that needs to be shared, is the online mapping portal. So this is a way to share maps information between SGS and the communities and back and forth. And you can see here, this is an outline of the Scotland territory, and there's landscape units, which are, each of these areas is a separate landscape unit, and those are summarizing information within those landscape units as a way for planning, based on biodiversity and stallion values, long-term planning. So I guess all of the online mapping portal is in its very early stages of being developed. And essentially right now what it is a way to share publicly available information. And so everything that you might find on the online system right now is publicly available. But in the future, ideally, it'll also contain non-publicly available information, so stallion values. And those will be protected by user logons to maintain confidentiality. But we're not there yet. We're just in the very early stages of this project. And I keep saying the word information, that's because there's a lot of information out there already. And some of it, a lot of it was collected during the negotiations of the settlement agreement. Right now we've got 2 Statlian data clerks that have been hired for 3 months, and they're going through all of the information, sorting it, cataloging it, so that we know what exists, and we're able to find it to support resource management decisions. As well, most of this information is owned by the communities. Right now it's just sitting in one spot. And the intent is that by going through it and recognizing what exists, we can then give it back to the communities that own it. And most of these projects that I just talked about really quickly, so the cataloging and index system, the information sharing portal, the information sharing agreement, they all fit into strategic watershed plan, which is again in the very early stages of development. The goal essentially is going to be to sustain Stately values across the landscape, which is a pretty big goal, long-term goal. And we're in step 1, watershed inventory. So like you've heard throughout the rest of the day, inventorying what already exists within the Stately territory, bringing all the information together so that it can be easily accessed to support decision making, and sharing technical information so that LTC, communities can work from a shared knowledge base. So all this is really important. And what it is it's the building blocks. So we're at the very, 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 very first stage, getting the basic building blocks in place so that we can develop strategic watershed plans. And we can work from a shared information base so that we can inform land and resource decisions in the future. So I flew through that. Yeah, we're in the beginning stages of a lot of these projects, but there is a lot to them already. And so for that reason, I want to make sure that there's the handouts at the back. My phone number is on those handouts. So if you have any questions about any of these projects, don't hesitate to call or ask me right now if you want to. That's it for my presentation. The next slide is SGS Heritage. But before we do that, if there's time for questions, and then Nora can also do her presentation. So, any questions? Did you want a PowerPoint? No. Okay.
Hvala, Inčnik Ljubka, Nora Billy, Spotchicha, Hackwood and Statlium. My name is Nora Billy, I'm from Hackwood of the Statlium territory. I work as a GIS technician for Statlium Government Services, and some of you have my map I did, and I was just trying to see if I had language on there, just the place names of the actual communities is in the language, but the communities all recognize themselves as those, so that's what I put on there. I work with Sue Sanger, who is our environmental lead, and I also work with Nadine Gray, who is a heritage lead. I work with Matt Manuel and Natural Resources. I work with Jim MacArthur, also in SCC, the Statlium Chiefs Council. I work with every department around Statlium Government Services. Some of the major projects that I work with are, my co-workers are Denise Antoine and Darwin John, who are the wildlife and lands technicians. And Denise, basically, you see her in the video earlier, she actually works a lot with the bear projects. Darwin John works with is a lands technician, and one of his fun parts of his job is that he gets to go out in the territory and set up these cameras out in the forest there and take pictures of any animals or movement that's taking place, and he's got some really good pictures from those. And that's just to kind of place our wildlife in different areas of the territory. The major projects that I work on is data management and data collection. So that's all of our shape files and anything to do with Statlium territory, what I need to put together, the different maps that I work on. I gather the data, I do referral data for mapped and for forestry referrals. I did a little bit of IPP referrals, that's independent power project referrals, and heritage I've done work for Nadine and that. Mule deer winter range project is a mapping of core areas in the territory using the landscape given that Rita explained. So one of the major areas that we're focusing on is the Bridge watershed. That's that red whole area that Rita showed you. So with the mule deer winter project, we determined how proposed cut blocks might impact the mule deer winter ranges. And we've started a smaller landscape so we could build out to the bigger picture. So we've started at the Carpenter Lake, which is really quite important mule deer winter range for our mule deer, and we started there, and we're doing different aspects like the fur that the mule deer like to be in. So we catch that, and then we catch all the impacts like fires or logging, and you know, if the water diversion, because that's another impact on our mule deer. So we do a lot of that, and that also includes like stream crossing. So you go, when you're driving along the roads and you pass a bridge, that's a stream crossing. You pass a culvert, that's a stream crossing. And all of those have some impact or another on the actual streams and wildlife habitats. So that's one of the things that we're doing. And the road density, I don't have a picture, but Lita had one earlier, and it showed like the Statler territory and all the roads around the Statler territory. And one of the biggest things that we've noticed was that there was roads and roads and roads and roads all around the outside of our territory. And we're beginning to get a pretty thick web of roads inside the territory. So one of the projects that we're working on is to identify road access management plans, like if a company was going to go in to do some logging and they want to build a new road, is that road going to impact more of our mule deer winter range? Is it going to impact more of our grizzly bear ranges, and you know, and our salmon and trout streams, and that, how much impact is that going to be? So that's some of the things that we're doing. And one of the projects that I'm just beginning to get a handle on is what we call a story map. So what this will be is if you go online and then you see the Statler territory, and this will help the ones that are not that great in the language. If you click on like Squila, for instance, pavilion, it will bring up something about squirrels and the story there, and you know, a little explanation about what part of the territory they are, what they represent, and just a little education tool. That's just the very beginning, because there's so much more we can do. We can go into stories, we can go into the creation stories, we can go into down the 6 Mile. We have lots of cultural sites down there. We can go into that and talk about those and bring those stories out so that people, or young ones like that, can learn them and know them, and we have them out there for them. And that's one of the exciting things that I'm looking forward to taking part in and developing. And that's just a short caption of what I do. I've taken my first training in GIS through the Okanagan University College in Salmon Arm. And then I've done years of on-the-job training as well through Halfwood, doing the traditional use study out there, and landscape management. I've done lands and resource management, I've done forestry management, and so all of those previous jobs has really helped me with what I'm doing today with the Statler government system. Okay.
So, yeah, I agree. The storyboard project, our component of the mapping, I think is really a good tool, educational tool that we can use to help with some of the other objectives we have. You know, and the one thing that I was going to mention about the Stewardship Advisory Committee. So in our view, the way we set it up in our governance structure, they're the Statler experts. So they're involved in reviewing environmental projects and different things like that, and they provide that Statler knowledge into those projects. It's not just all about Western science anymore. And so we've also got that acceptance in our agreements with Hydro. And so this is exciting stuff, and I think Hydro is actually leading the way in the province in doing that. And so, in my view, it's really exciting the work that we're doing around land resource and the information gathering piece that we do. One thing I have to mention too is that we are not the decision makers. We only gather information, we provide information to people that do that, because it's not our mandate to do that yet. Or I should say yet, it has been mandated to us to do. Daryl shakes his head and laughs. But it only makes sense, because if we have the capacity and we are doing that work and we are creating those systems that everybody can utilize, that stuff will sort itself out. Okay, what am I doing? Oh, I'm looking for last video. And how come, here we go. Right out of his computer. We have, we're almost finished. We have just one last video on results. And then we have a presentation from SER, the new guy on the block, Leach. So, a bit of a wrap up here. Here's some success stories. This was a jointly funded project from BC Hydro and SGS. Yeah, it's not working. Control function. And duplicate. All right.
My name is Chester Allen from Hudson, part of SGS team here.
Nora Billy and Squatchicha.
Yeah, I'm Grace Rule, environmental technician, fisheries technician for SER.
Working with the SGS, I was able to move back home. Before SGS, I drove a truck professionally for 6 years.
On a daily basis, I get to fish, tag fish. Right now we're measuring the reds where the Chinook spawn in the river.
With the new SGS, I guess one of the main things here is giving you job security. And so I'm able to focus on other things and worrying about what my next job is going to be.
What I love most about this job is being part of a great team. Not only the heritage team, but we have everybody here we can work with, we can all gather together.
As a GIS technician, I work with a lot of department heads and work on projects such as the Bridge River Seton watershed. And being here has given me really good confidence in the work I do.
The skills training came by coming back to SGS. I used to put through the environmental technical training program quite a bit.
This position changed my life because I have job stability and I make more money than before and I have a lot more fun at work.
I love that I can finally do something that I really enjoy doing. And I love that I can keep learning new skills on a daily basis. And it just amazes me that people like the work that I do. That makes me really happy.
So, like we mentioned earlier, we have a number of technicians that work on these water use program projects. And all the technicians are stepping in. And so that really makes a big difference because we want to develop them to be able to take over and run those programs themselves and not have to rely on outsiders to provide that high level management right now that we have to do. Everything we do in the organization, it is about building those people and building our own people to be able to do the management work. And so we take a lot of pride in making sure that we get there. So here's Eco Resources, and it's the last of the videos, and then more. All right, should I file this on? I'll put this on first. Oh!
My name is Bonnie Nagle, and I'm the project manager Stately Natural Resources and the Water Use Plan projects. Stately Natural Resources was incorporated in 2012, and we are the financial arm of Statly Chiefs Council. The Water Use Plan is a document that defines the operating conditions to be imposed on hydro facilities. It considers a range of values, including environmental, social, and economic. Water use plan guidelines have been prepared by the BC Water Controller and are summarized. 1. Protection of fish and aquatic habitat. 2. Flood control. 3. Dam safety. 4. Power generation. 5. First Nation issues. And finally, drinking water, irrigation, etc. There are 16 water monitoring projects and 2 works projects that were awarded to Statly Natural Resources following the completion of the bridge system water use plan in March of 2011. CER's goals for 2014-15 are to introduce more capacity building, job shadowing, and each of the monitoring projects, implement training needs and requirements, and to employ Statly technicians into higher positions such as biologists and hydrologists within each monitoring project.
So when we radio track any species that's coming or going, we've got the best receiver and all the telemetry stations that's running 4 points of the river, so they tell us exactly how high up the river they come and where they're going. So if they pass the very top site, we pick up the radio code, and they all have different codes and frequencies. Yeah, so they go exactly, and if they pass the point of the river. And we also have a fish counter, so with that video surveillance, so we can use it as how many different fish we're going through. It doesn't tell us what kind of fish we're going through, but that's what the video surveillance does.
So this is a radio tag, and we're putting these inside the stomachs of a lot of the sockeye that we're tagging here for this project. And what this does is it sends out a simple little signal that has a unique identification code associated with it, and we're able to track the movement of the fish as they move from downstream in the Fraser River all the way up into the Seed River here and up past the dam and all the way to their spawning grounds at Portage Creek or up at Gates as well. So this is the tag that we use to track their movements. We also put a number of other things in these fish. This little guy here is called a pit tag. And this is just a simple microchip, the kind of thing that you would find in a dog, for example, to give it a unique identification number as well. And we use these for when we're recovering fish on spawning grounds, and also when they're moving up past the dam. We have a number of antennas that are right inside the dam that examine how fish move up past through there. And then to help us identify which fish we have actually tagged, we have these yellow spaghetti tags right here, and these get fastened to the back of the fish. We just tie them in a simple knot, and it hangs off the back of the fish. So we know that whenever we see a fish swimming around with one of these guys on there, we can immediately tell that that fish is one that we want to take a second look at. It's one that we've tagged before. We also take blood from these fish the same way that you would do if you go to the clinic and get blood work done. It's the same procedure. It's a simple needle prick in the back of the fish. We take about 4 millimeters of blood, and we use that to run all sorts of analyses to look at levels of stress in the fish, and also to determine the sex of the individual. So if it was a male or female, this is really important in all of our future analyses. So that's what this little guy is for. And that's pretty much all we do. The whole tagging procedure takes about 3 minutes, give or take a few. So it's quite interesting, all the things we do.
Wildlife on the easiest country that we can. Norm Beach, I'm the newest hire of the newest organization, I guess, of the Stadtbild. Stadtbild Eco Resources. Anyone heard of Stadtbild Eco Resources? No, it's a secret.
Is it the CIA?
And we're going to change that though. It's going to be not a secret, and actually we're going to get the message out to everybody what it is we do. We actually started out as, the intent I think was to be economic development for our Stadtbild Nation. With the start being the 16 projects with hydro, monitoring the activities of hydro in the region. A large bit of hydro, the word hydro basically means water. So everything that hydro does revolves around water. It seems you think electricity, but really it's water. So they store water, they dam water, they make electricity from water. But in the big picture, it's all about the water of the territory. Everything about watershed and water and rivers and lakes and streams and reservoirs. So there's 16 projects that, as you've heard, all the technicians are stuck up, and we monitor those projects. We sort of administer those projects. The downside of all the technicians being stuck up is really not many of the biologists or hydrologists or scientists are stuck up yet. So our goal is to change that. So if we go back, I always go big picture, long term. If you go back 100 years, 1,000 years, 5,000 years, 10,000 years, Stadtbild managed everything in the territory. We were responsible for everything. We made all the decisions, everything. We just had to. That was the way it was. We were the experts in everything in the territory. The water, the animals, the fish, the plants, everything. We maintained it, we protected it, we used it in a good way. The challenge now is to get back to that place. We need to become experts in all those things again. You need to become experts in all those things again. We need to identify the opportunities where there's paid work for those things so that you can make a living while doing that. But longer term, it's so that the nation can become a nation again and take back responsibility for managing the nation and bringing it to the level of quality and health that it was 1,000 years ago. So again, that's the responsibility that we have to bring you to that level of responsibility as well. So right now, the SER, those 16 contracts run, I think they've been running them for 3 years now, coming to the end of the 3rd year. So they've sort of grown, I think $1 million, $2 million, nearly $3 million now total. Top line revenues, but a lot of that's just going out to other contractors because they were already doing the work and we didn't have people qualified to do the work. So most of that is still happening, but again, we're in the process of getting people trained to become those technicians and next biologists and hydrologists and scientists and project managers. So that's the bigger picture longer term, but again, it's part of the bigger process of becoming the nation. I don't know if you remember growing up at home, and I didn't actually grow up at home, but I moved home after, but we didn't hear the word Stadtbild, right? We were bands. We were Lillooet Band of the Lillooet Tribe, right? But Stadtbild is a new thing. So this idea of thinking and behaving and acting like a nation is a relatively new thing for us again. So, but in a sense, the BC Hydro Agreement has hastened, has accelerated that process for us because it has forced us to sign that agreement as a nation. And the benefits that flow from that agreement are as a nation. So it's pushing us back to becoming a nation, to unite and to become stronger and act as relations again, instead of as separate bands. And I think that that's a good thing. And so for the Stadtbild Eco Resources, our job is, we were created by the Chiefs Council to act on behalf of the nation and to identify and secure and expand the opportunities and the benefits for Stadtbild citizens and communities through the hydro agreement. Now we see that as just the starting point, right? These contracts, but we also see that there's opportunity for growth. So we know we can project out, and Hydro share their capital plans with us. And then we also have heard of other IPPs projected in the region. there's more than $1 billion worth of work that's going to be occurring in the Latvian territory in the next 20 years. Now, if we're serious about going back and taking back responsibility for the territory and managing it and regulating it and governing it and receiving the benefits for our citizens from our territory, then we have to get qualified. We have to prepare ourselves for those responsibilities. And that's, again, our job to identify them and share that information with the citizens, off reserve, on reserve, all, so that you can prepare yourselves for those opportunities. That way, we can all benefit, the communities can all become more prosperous, more self-sustaining, and recreate the economies that we had. Historically, we were traders. We traded, we were entrepreneurs. That's our culture. So we have to rebuild that culture of who we are and always were. We caught the salmon, we dried the salmon, we traded the salmon, right? We became, as Chief Darrell Cookby said, we were rich because we had those resources and we managed them properly. We can get back to that if we start becoming the experts of the resources in our territory again. So that's part of the job of what we do, and it's amazing to me that the initial challenge we have to meet is communications. Because we haven't got the message out. We've been keeping it a secret, it seems. That's our communication strategy. But if you think back 1,000 years ago, we had no PowerPoint, we had no words, we didn't have the written language. How did we survive? We had to be amazing communicators. To speak face to face and to teach our children everything that they needed to learn to survive in the territory. All the laws, all the rules, all the ways of being, and they learned it perfectly, so well that they can teach it to the next generation. So again, we've got to abandon the idea that we're not good at communications, because it's not true. We are amazing communicators, and we just have to remember that again. We will. So part of my job is to prepare our staff and our board to get that message, draft the message, and start the messages, and make sure that you all hear it over and over and over again until you're sick of it. But then we will. So again, but along with the opportunities are our challenges. Communication is a big challenge, but it's also a huge opportunity for us. So overcome the challenges, right? Embrace the opportunities, make the most of them, make sure that you have the information that you need to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. And if we're failing on that, then we're failing. So we see that as the biggest challenge we'll overcome in the first place. Even internally, our communications will improve those as well. And then for us, for the board, like Chiefs Council appointed a new board. So there's 3 new board members who are non-Latvian. They're business-oriented people who actually all live down in the Lower Mainland. Peter Parrish is in Victoria. He's an experienced business developer who's worked with First Nations for many years. Neil Philcox, he's worked with the Coast Opportunity Funds. He's a capital management specialist, investments, global. He has global experience. Merle Alexander, who's a well-known First Nations lawyer, a lot of experience in intellectual property and highly advanced business development. So that's my new board, and they're very interested in expanding the opportunities and maximizing the benefits that we can deliver to First Nation citizens and communities in the territory. So they've given me 6 months to get this thing on a firm footing, and then at that point they'll probably either offer me an extension or post a position for either an executive director or a chief CEO. So at that point, then we should be set to at least have a strategy for the employment and training, to have input into the types of skills and training that we want to promote in the territory to make sure that we are qualified to do all that work that's going to occur in the next 20 years. We need to be pre-qualified so that in fact, we should not only be the preferred contractor for all that work, we should be the pre-qualified and direct award contractor for most of that work. That's our goal, because that's the way to maximize the opportunity that we have at BC Hydro. And BC Hydro is just really our sole and biggest client right now, but we intend to expand beyond that. There are fisheries, there's highways, there's waterways in the territory, and they're all doing work with technicians in the territory too. Eventually, any work that's happening in the territory, we should be a part of it. We should know about it, we should be talking with them about it, and we should be involved, and the people should be doing as much of that work as possible. So, big picture, long term. We have some other challenges in deciding what the best approach is. We were created by the nation to serve the nation. So that's the approach we take as a nation. We will promote that idea, that way of thinking. We believe that the nation is stronger, is more powerful, has a better chance of success going forward as a nation rather than as individual bands or communities. We will make sure that there are opportunities for all communities and all citizens throughout the territory. But again, our priority has been set for us. Our mandate is to serve the nation as a whole and not individual communities. So just to make that clear, and that we're just getting started, and keep an eye out for us.
Have a secret.
Yeah.
You're supposed to keep an eye out for us.
Oh, stay out of our way.
We gave birth to you. So they're like still a child yet? They're growing up. And it sounds like they're going down right fast. Go. So, that's it.
Oh yeah, no questions.
Yes, ma'am.
This meeting for the BC Hydro, is it going to be ongoing once a year, next year?
That's our plan. It's in our plan to do that every year. And, you know, and as we improve our communication process and all that stuff, we expect the same type of stuff. Yeah, definitely.
So we'll be able to get emails or notified when they have meetings?
Definitely. Yeah, that's why we need to get our database created. So by you giving us that information, you'll have the stuff the minute it goes on the air.
Anyone here not on Facebook? Are we there?
I don't have time.
Who's the main person to ask about meetings and stuff?
Main person? Oh, Janice. She's our relations manager. Her job is to make sure people understand what's going on. If you have any questions, she's the point of contact. BC Hydro uses her as her point of contact for anything and everything. So yeah, that's who takes care of that.
I should also say that we have other board members who are Strathfield. Arnold Adolph and Daryl Peters, who are Strathfield board members. And there's 2 youth board members as well, Allison James and Jessica Hopkins, who are Strathfield as well. But they have engaged outside expertise so that it's clear that we have some business experience and skills.
Yeah, I was around
The land resources. I'm wondering about, because I heard about clear cutting.
Clear
cutting
Hey, sorry.
of some places. Are they gonna be replacing trees and stuff, whatnot?
Not, no, I have to say no to that, simply because that's silviculture stuff, and the nation hasn't had an agreement with forestry or any of those types of issues. We wouldn't be doing that unless we're instructed to. You know, so that stuff, it's responsibility of usually the operators and that kind of stuff. It's through licensing. It's a challenge, you know, and I think as the nation builds and we start building our capacity around becoming real government, those types of things will become part of our policy as we follow. But that's, you know, we're talking about. I can't even guess when. It could actually happen sooner than we think.
Also with the tribal and the police, are they knowing what's going on with their lands and with people?
Tribal police is more about taking care of the people issues, things on the land. They don't have, they're police force. And, so they don't enforce those types of things, dealing with stuff on the land. I think right now there's been some high level discussions with the chiefs talking about how we start doing that stuff for ourselves. Things with Mount Paula that came out, it sort of polarized that a little better and really raised the urgency of that, dealing with that kind of work. But it's just discussions at this point. It could lead to some more work. But I think jurisdiction and enforcement is something that is we need to become aware of, build our capacities, and do it because other people aren't doing it anymore for us. And so it's all part of getting recognition of our jurisdiction, and it's up to us to make sure that we enforce that. It's up to us to give ourselves recognition to be a nation first. And so there's a lot of this stuff coming out, and and I like the way Norm talked about it, becoming our experts again. And we say the term nation rebuilding, and people saying, well, why are we rebuilding? I thought we were a nation. But so there's different interpretations of everything. In my view, and I like the way Norm talked about it, we got to become our experts again, and it's up to us to do that work. And it's going to take a bit of time and effort, and it's all through communications, being informed, and making those right decisions. And so we try to help that. All right. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Thanks to our young technician, Pat, for being able to broadcast this for us. And thanks to the team, and thank you for coming out on a Saturday to get some information. All right, so with that, I'll ask our elder, would you want to close the meeting with a prayer?
Yeah.
Sure, please.
This Mumsy song. It says, I'm poor, I don't know what to give to who is coming to visit me. I got no shoes, I'm barefooted, I don't know what to give whoever comes to visit me. They told me, they were talking about God. They didn't mention God, but they mentioned God. So I like singing that song every day. I remember Mom was singing it 60 years ago. Only 69 songs. And I sang 26 songs, 24 songs, 24 songs, 8 in my language, in our language. So not one of them is my songs, but my brother Korea, he sang a frog song. So I took over the frog song. So I recorded those. They're in the CDs now. I was amazed I could sing all the songs. I'm blessed.
Laura.
Oh,